Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, no Brendan, got my guy Espo, but that's not the main course. It's usually Kevin Durant. And what has he done? Well, he is speaking once again. And the front office and the Phoenix Suns relationship could just be fractured beyond repair. Let's talk about it next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I am Benjamin Garcia, a credentialed media member. That's not my day job, but it is what I like to do on my free time. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Wednesday. Don't forget, Locked On Phoenix Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button to do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer. I like to think of it as Suns fans in the millions have been flocking to this show and get Locked On Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our teams, our NBA newsletters, I guess I should say. So listen, you like getting some free Phoenix Suns content? You like getting whatever it is in terms of fantasy basketball related news? You get all of that. And guess what? One-stop shop. It's free. Go to lockedondaily.com, sign up for it. It's free. All we need is your email information, and I promise we will not be selling all your information anywhere. Anyways, joining me today, it's not Brendan. They both wear glasses, but it's not Brendan. And you would know it's Brendan because he'd be the one running the show and not telling the guy I'm talking to right now, I'm not too sure how to press record on this thing. I just got done telling him how techie I am. And I couldn't figure out how to press record because Brendan usually does that. But without further introduction, he needs no introduction, but he got one anyways. Greg Esposito. Has anyone ever said it like that?
Yes, they have. It's always entertaining. I think Brendan's afraid of me because the only time I've been on this show is with you. I think Brendan is just like, I can't handle that guy, so Ben can do it,
We do have some talks about you, and we're like, who when we bring on our friends over at PHNX, who do we want to talk to? And he's more of the Eric Ruby route, a little safer.
He wants Gerald. He wants Gerald.
He does.
Brendan's I need Gerald. That's what I need.
There's one media member locally that Brendan will go after and poke because they're friends. Is Gerald, and is funny. I know Gerald didn't see it, but a couple weeks ago we were poking fun at him because he went and got a picture with Emma Stone when Emma Stone was there.
Of course you do that.
And Brendan was saying that it was not professional, and it was a good old time. But either way,
come on, Brendan. You're ducking me, Brendan. That's not professional. Let's talk about professional. Be here when I'm here, Brendan.
Listen, he covered for me yesterday. It was my birthday. 27 years young. I feel like that's the last year you're allowed to be young. Me and my wife decided. So this is my last year being young. 28. I will officially be old.
I haven't been young in 14 years then. So which makes me feel really old that I was in high school when you were born. So
another old fella, not on this show and certainly younger than Espo over there, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant decided to be a good idea to speak to the media, and I don't mean to say that tongue-in-cheek. Kevin Durant is a very outspoken person and someone who I do respect because of his ability to come out, speak, be honest, but sometimes he does put his foot in his mouth. I think Aaron Rodgers does that as well. That's kind of the cross-sport reference. Kevin Durant went with Malika Andrews today on ESPN, and the first thing he said, and we'll get to this first, and then we'll get to exactly what Kevin Durant said after this, but Malik Andrews basically read off a quote from Steve Kerr basically saying he didn't blame Kevin Durant for not going to the Warriors. And Kevin Durant basically said, or it was basically because, shouldn't get ahead of myself, that he got so much crap for winning those two finals MVPs, and it felt like, why would he go back there? It felt like he's just going back to Steph Curry. And Katie said, no, that's not the reason why I wanted to go. I didn't request a trade. I wanted to be with Phoenix. I want to see this team out. My first question would be to you is, how much do you believe, Kevin Durant, that it was about seeing this thing out, not making a trade? I mean, listen, is he worried if he asks for another deal out that he's potentially just another guy, a wanderer, a journeyman at that point, a superstar journeyman? Where were you at on Kevin Durant's comments about those things specifically, him staying with the Suns and choosing not to go to the Warriors?
I believe him because that's been his stance the entire time, is that he wants to remain in Phoenix, that he doesn't want to go anywhere. And he was very genuine in that. And I actually think he was done wrong in all of this because, they didn't come to him when people were calling. It doesn't sound like. It sounds like he found out via back channels about this deal with Golden State. And then he's put in the position to be the bad guy as well in this narrative because, oh, well, now Kevin Durant said he wouldn't go back there. When in reality, if he wanted to be in Phoenix, that's one thing. And then if you feel spurned and you're caught off guard with it, and you say, no, I really don't want to go there, there's no win for him in the situation. I actually feel for the guy, and I know that's not the popular opinion, but the front office, I don't think, did right by him. And even if he did feel that way about Golden State, I wouldn't blame him because people have dragged him for the last however many, 7 years now, because he went to Steph and it was Steph's team and all this crap. No, KD went out there, won titles, played well, and then in free agency chose to go somewhere else as well. I don't buy the narrative on that front, and I believe what he said to Malika Andrews today.
Yeah, Brendan and I, just to give you an idea from the guy that's running Scared of You of what we believe here, and that's basically kind of the same belief as you, is that the Suns, I don't lean towards the did him dirty thing because it's hard for me to feel bad for a guy that makes a lot of money on a front office that, I mean, listen, has, I think, put decent players around him, and they not only haven't succeeded, they have completely flunked the test. I mean, this is a team that likely, if they missed out the playoffs as a whole, maybe a play-in, they could potentially, with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, have 0 playoff wins, and 2 altogether with Devin Booker and KD or 6 altogether with Devin Booker and KD. So I would agree with you that it feels like you have to talk to your star athletes. And that's where I think that's where the issue lies, is Kevin Durant had to shut this down on his own. What the Suns should have did was be able to talk to Kevin Durant and his agent, say, hey, listen, we have this offer on the table. It's not out there. What do you think? And, it's interesting that you kind of brought that up because Kevin Durant is basically talking about his future here in the next clip and all about you have to basically see what the front office is going to do at the end of the year. So we'll kick it to Katie really quickly.
I mean, I never planned on leaving or moving Phoenix, getting traded. I didn't ask for a trade from Phoenix. But obviously, when you pay so much for a team and we're not playing up to our expectation, and somebody has to go, So, we probably should check in with those guys in the front office throughout the rest of the season and see how they feel about the team. I know that I'm going to keep trying to bring my best every single day, and I let the higher-ups focus on what's next.
This is not the first time in the last couple of weeks that Kevin Durant has very vocally chose his words carefully with the Suns front office. Michael, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was the look. It wasn't what he said. It was the look he gave while saying it that told you everything about it.
What do you think this Suns front office has butchered this Kevin Durant situation so poorly that it's likely going to be beyond repair?
I think that they've made up their mind unless something drastic happens over the next handful of months. They backed themselves into a corner when they took on the risk of a no trade clause with Bradley Beal. And I think, like KD said, when you pay this much for a roster, the most expensive roster in NBA history, and there's a legitimate chance that they don't even make the play-in, something has to change. And your most valuable asset would be Kevin Durant. Now, I hate to look at it that way because these are human beings, but the bottom line is Kevin Durant is going to be the most realistic player to move to get pieces back to try to build or at least retool, which is what I think they should do in the offseason. Is it ideal? Probably not, but it's where you are. And the reason I feel like they did him dirty, if it was any place other than Golden State, I'd probably feel differently. But with the history and knowing that and not saying, hey, Golden State reached out to us and we're exploring some things, would that even be a destination you'd want to go? This is the one place we understand there's baggage, right? And not doing that much, I think, is problematic.
Where do you think, did you just think, for me, I think Kevin Durant is a guy that doesn't forgive, and he certainly doesn't forget. Some people are like that. I'm not going after Kevin Durant for being that guy. But it seems like to me, in different stops, the Russell Westbrook thing over in Oklahoma City was clear. Russ was starting to drive him a little crazy. Goes to Golden State. Draymond Green drives him a little crazy. Can't repair that relationship. Goes to Brooklyn. That relationship goes to Joe Tsai. Says, I want to trade. Doesn't happen. And now in Phoenix, the Suns are the ones that initiate this one. I mean, is it to the point where he just can't trust the front office anymore? I mean, how do you not talk to him?
Yeah, see, I think, like I said, they should have talked to him. They played a high stakes game of poker and they lost, right? Because they tried something, they wanted to see how far they could get down the road, and it blew up in their face. I don't know that the people, or at least one of the guys that has a title there, may actually be there in the summer to help make that decision. So maybe if you decide to keep him, there's somebody new making that decision, and you could prepare it because there are changes. That could be a path. I don't know. But where it stands, if things stand pat and this is the same group making the decisions, I could see where Kevin Durant isn't going to forget that. But I also don't think he wants to lose the moral high ground in this, right? I think he wants to be able to say, I never asked to leave. You can't run that narrative on me again because I didn't ask to leave. I wanted to be in Phoenix and they chose to blow it up. So I also think there could be a game of chicken going on there where it's, nope, wasn't me. It was the front office. So
that's the one thing that worries about me with the KD stuff. This is the one thing where I do feel for him is he's only asked for a trade one time. Yeah, he's a little bit of a wanderer, but that's not how the NBA. It's like the LeBron James thing. The Luka Doncic trade thing is probably the only trade that I didn't think LeBron James had a hand in because it was so insane. And regardless, though, some people are going to just believe LeBron was the one pulling the strings. I think with Kevin Durant as well, I think there's some people who are like, I don't think the Suns front office did that. I think Kevin Durant quietly asked for a trade. It's not fair to him. But you mentioned some of the front office stuff. You know, James Jones potentially hinting at other factors that are going on. Let's discuss what if the Phoenix Suns front office really does share most of the blame for their failures so far this season. We'll get to that next. First, we got to pay some bills, and today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Football season may be over, but the basketball action is just heating up, and there's no better way to get on the excitement than with Prize Picks. The best place for daily fantasy sports is simple. Just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash with Prize Picks. You control the action all season long. You know, for me, whenever it's on Prize Picks, it's fun just be able to just go, you're not really playing against any of the sharps or any of that nonsense, but it's just an easy way for me to just be like, Devin Booker, over 30 points, let's do it. Or years ago, James Harden, the highest over-under point total ever is 41.5, and he scores 62. It's easy, touch of a button, really fun to do those kind of things with Prize Picks. You know, and that's even just this week. When the Suns go up and start the second half of their season, I'm looking at those Kevin Durant and Devin Booker over point total. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, the lights should stay on for another segment, Espo. I hope we'll see some of those words, sometimes I trip over, I get so excited talking about our sponsors sometimes, and not because Brendan usually does this part of the show. Brendan, come back. I miss you. This is a hot button topic, Espo. This is something that I continuously get into arguments with fans about, or people on social media that, tell me they're very close to the situation, but I've never seen them at a Suns game before in my life.
Hey, I talk to you out of kindness. You don't have to out me like that.
You don't come to the Suns games because you don't need to, Espo. You're the boss. I go to the Suns games, one, because I enjoy to, but there's going to the Suns games as media is only kind of fun. Like, I'm working. The free food that Ishbia gives us, yeah, it's a good time, but I can't even go say hi to your guy Gerald because he's busy.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, people like us sweated through the no free food years so you could get free food. So you're welcome is what I'm saying. Sorry, get to what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen, that is the Suns front office. That is Matt Ishbia and company. This is an argument that I've been getting in arguments with on Twitter. Respectfully, of course. I'm not that type of guy to go at someone personally. But you see some of the dialogue around the Suns front office. And I'm just going to leave it very open-ended. Who deserves the most amount of blame? Is it the Suns front office? Is it because of they didn't go and get another player? Is it because they failed on Bradley Beal? Is it whatever reason? I'll give you my take on it. I'm sure you understand it in a second. But how much of it is the front office? How much of it is other things that we haven't talked about?
It's on the front office. It's on ownership. It's on the players. It's on the coaches. Everyone involved has a share of this blame for this season and for the last two seasons. It's not one thing, because things can't go this horribly wrong if it's just one reason. There are multiple factors that lean into this, and nobody is blameless, including the front office, including the players, and including the coaching staff.
When it comes to the front office things, though, here's why I'm at on it. I've blamed Frank Vogel. I've blamed Monty Williams. I've blamed James Jones. Here's the reason why I wouldn't shake up the front office a ton. I don't know how much I believe in the Barlstein factor, but everyone's got their own opinion on that. But the James Jones factor is really interesting to me because people want to run James Jones out of the building, and I'm not there. I'm just simply not there. I mean, Espo, the biggest thing in the NBA to me is nailing the draft. And outside of a bad pick, not taking Tyrese Halliburton and Keldon Johnson in that draft, he's got a pretty good track record of guys drafting. I mean, listen, Toumani Camara is a hit. Ryan Dunn, he thinks a hit.
He traded Toumani Camara. And if you're going to give him credit for the last few drafts, this is after James Jones made it pretty clear he didn't care about scouting departments and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, new owner comes in with a president of the team, and they bring in a scouting department. Like, I'm not giving James Jones a free pass on that, right? Plus, James Jones has been there so long that he and I basically crossed paths. I haven't worked for the franchise since 2016. All right. To me, at some point you look around and you go, who's the only guy left that has been a part of this through all of this? It's James Jones, Devin Booker too, but you're not changing that. So James Jones has been there. James Jones was in the room when they took DA. James Jones was in the room when Sarver overruled the fact that they were going to trade and take SGA, and they killed that deal. Sarver did. James Jones made the Jalen Smith pick. James Jones has been there for all this. People forget his first trade was trying to trade for the wrong Brooks, right? Like James Jones is not some Teflon Don with this, and he's also a guy that I feel like. He talked about it at one point when he became president of basketball operations, that maybe the day-to-day machinations of putting together a roster wasn't really his thing, right? That maybe he'd hire a GM. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but at some point, I think you're done with that phase. And I think that phase comes to an end early this summer.
So this is what I wanted to get to. That I just don't know. I mean, that's a whole other topic for a whole nother show in the offseason, what candidates they could look into. I know some people like Bob Myers. I don't know why he would just leave his cozy job at ESPN and with the Commanders, but neither here nor there. It sounds like you are more so blaming the front office more than the players. Is that where you're at?
No, because I can't fire Bradley Beal. I can't. I did as close as I could with Yusuf Nurkic, right? He got a one-way ticket out. Unfortunately, took a first-round pick with him, right? Like, Devin Booker's going nowhere, and you're already trying to move Kevin Durant. So, like, there's things that are happening on all fronts, but I don't think you can simply go, the front office gets a free pass. We're going to let them chart this new course, and we're going to trade one of the major pieces that we have with this same vision. They need new blood in there that comes with a complete vision of how to bring it together and build a championship roster rather than playing fantasy basketball.
Fair argument. Really quickly, here's where I stand with it. This is a talented team. Now, are they talented enough to win a championship? We debated at the beginning of the year. We weren't so sure. We knew they had clear holes. Brendan and I wear this as a badge of honor, tried to say last year, the biggest issue for this team was never the point guard position. They needed to get bigger at the wing. They needed to get bigger at center. And then sure, yeah, if you could get a guy, and Tyus Jones seemed like that guy. This team has Tyus Jones, a promising rookie in Ryan Dunn. Royce O'Neal is a fine veteran. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Nick Richards. Like, there's talent there. You don't even need, I'm not arguing they're a top 3 seed, a top 4 seed. They should be a top 6 seed. And often nights, Espo, this team just simply doesn't show up to play. They roll the ball out there, assume because they're more talented, they're not only going to beat the other team, they're going to hammer them home. And in games that they win, they don't even blow anyone out. There is a clear, divide between the front office and the locker room, or the head coach and the locker room, which I'm not blaming Bud for this. Like, at some point, it does feel like the players deserve a large, I would argue, majority of the blame for this season failures because of how bad it's been. This team, I mean, I don't think they're not making the playoffs. They might make the play-in, and that's a complete and utter failure. So that's where I would land on it. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense, but I think you're leaving out a key element of this, right? And I think this front office has ignored it in a lot of this experiment, as did the previous regime in Ryan McDonough and the group. This isn't just put together talent. This isn't just look at the analytics and say this works. There is a human element, a chemistry element that you have to look at and understand, will this work together? And I think that is a big part of what was overlooked, that I don't think this mixes from a human element, and that's as much on the general manager that's putting it together as it is on the guys that get thrown into a locker room together, right? Like, we all have been through this, and no, none of us make millions of dollars, so it's not a perfect analogy, but we've all been on teams at workplaces where you're thrown together, right? And you have to figure out, how do I work with the guy that drives me insane sitting 2 chairs down from me? And that can throw off the entire chemistry of everything, right? And that's part of being a boss, being a leader. When you're putting together a team, do the personalities work together? I don't think that was considered when you put together this group. And I don't think that can be fully blamed on the players, because there's only so much you can do. And do the players get along with the coach? Well, you should know what kind of a coach is going to be the kind that reaches the guys you got in your locker room.
Really good points. All I could think about this entire time was, oh man, is he talking about Shane Diefenbach or Eric Ruby?
No, neither.
I'm pretty sure it's one of those two guys.
I respect the mustache, and I respect Eric and the sunglasses. There's nothing that I'm talking about. I'm talking about how they probably view me is the way it is. They go, I can't work with that guy anymore.
So it's the same way Brendan views me. All right. So I got it.
Or how he views me, why he doesn't show up when I'm here.
Let's wrap up the show with this. It's been a lot of doom and gloom, but part of the times when I get a guest on the show, I want to get the thick of their opinions. Where is that? People don't really want to hear anyone's opinion right now of the Suns' second round draft pick or the Oso Iguodala or Ryan Dunn's. Like, let's get into it here. I do think there is a reason to believe, not this season, but I don't think it is as bleak as everyone else is putting it out to be. I would love to get your thoughts on that. So we will, because I paid you for the half an hour. Next. First, today's episode is also brought to you by sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were ever going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert. Who can do your taxes as soon as today? An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return. While you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, let's wrap up the show here. This isn't going to be more so a question. I guess it kind of is. I want you to think if I'm crazy here. I don't like to blow smoke. That is true. I don't like to blow smoke on this show. So when I give out these ideas or this take, people know I'm being genuine and being serious. That's what I've kind of built my audience on. People have kind of came after me for this take. I don't think the Suns' future is as bleak as other people think it is. I don't think that they're going into another 5, 7, 8-year rebuild. I don't think that's happening. And I don't think Devin Booker's getting traded. And here's why. It sucks, and I don't want to push the guy out the door because it's fun just to say that I believe the Suns have a top 10 player of all time on their roster. But they do have a little bit of a do-over button. Kevin Durant, if you move on from him and you're able to go after a team like the Rockets, you're not getting Şengün, you're not getting Thompson, but can you get, obviously, a Fred VanVleet or a Dylan Brooks, and the money works for one of those guys, a Cam Whitmore, another player off the top of my head for Jabari Smith Jr., two of those longer, lengthier guys. You get bigger in the front court. You add a Fred VanVleet who can be your point guard and be serviceable and is on a non-guaranteed contract a year from next year, so 2 years from now. You get your 2 first-round picks back. Potentially you get a sweetener in the deal. Who knows? Maybe you get a Reed Shepherd. I don't know. They sent that guy to the G League earlier this year. And then at that point, let's just be realistic. 2 first-round picks. They're both yours. Potentially your first-round pick for this year, if I'm not mistaken. You get your Jabari Smith and Cam Whitmore, and I think you're back in business. You're not a championship contender, but I think that they're a top 6 team in the West. I think they're fun. I think they're frisky. You wait another year for Bradley Beal's contract to be more tradable. You move him, which would be an insanely valuable expiring deal when it happens. Booker's still in his early 30s. He's still in his prime. This year sucks, but I don't think it's here to stay, especially with an owner, Matt Ishbia, who I will continue to defend, is aggressive and willing to put his money where his mouth is to make this team work. Where are you at in the Suns' future?
I don't think you're crazy with that. I think where you would worry is, do they just get draft capital back in some kind of deal and players that aren't actually serviceable and young? That's when I'd worry. But I think you're 100% right. The reason you were looking at moving on from Kevin Durant is because you can get value for Kevin Durant that is spread out, not just in one player, but in multiple guys that can help you, and you can get draft capital. So then you have more flexibility. This team will never be back to the dark days of tanking and any of that kind of stuff, because that's not the way Matt Ishbia is wired. Matt Ishbia is going to continue to try to find ways to put them in a position to succeed. And he failed. All right. So you take what you learned from that and you move on to the next thing. You bring in somebody with a vision on how to build a roster that you're looking at, and you make those moves. And I'd argue that's a fairly bright future if you can navigate it correctly. And even if you don't, and you wind up sitting here for the next year with KD and then he expires, and then you can move on from Brad, you have a clean cap sheet, a clean balance sheet to go after guys, which Matt Ishbia has proven he'll go all in after a big star. And you know what? There's hope for the next 2 months, because the Footprint Center came into being right before Game 5 of the finals. It was a jinx, right? It caused them to lose, and then Devin's back with Kendall. So look at this. Things can turn around this year too. The basketball gods are trying to smile on us right now.
Well,
only half of that was sarcastic.
Well, Espo, I've been meaning to make this joke with you for a while now, and since we're kind of getting fun here, listen, we're both kind of more high on the future than maybe a Suns fan is, and fans are fanatics. They emote, they have strong opinions, and I get it. I don't get upset with fans for doing that. But what I will tell you, Espo, is a source that I will not disclose has told me the Phoenix Suns will be in the market to improve this team this summer in a splashy trade if it can indeed help them win more games. The Phoenix Suns are in the second tax apron, and they are some wins and some losses and 10th in the West. And you heard it here. That is journalism, capital J journalism. And it's just going to get worked out because I have a source who, name might rhyme with Schmenjamin Schmarshmia, but still, I just,
you know a guy who knows a guy?
I do know a guy who knows a guy. I listen, I'm maybe not some of the other fans on Twitter, but or I guess reporters on Twitter that have deep insights. But man, I can't disclose who it is. But if it happens,
Benjamin, I've got a source. According to Benjamin Garcia, there is a good chance that this summer the Phoenix Suns make a splashy trade, according to a source that he knows. So I can confirm that you confirmed that this person said what they may or may not have said. And I am adding you right now at the Ben Garcia show as a, you had it first. So.
Well, I appreciate you just tweeting it out and saying per at Ben Garcia show, than just retweeting me and just helping me out there. But listen, that's just not the way things go in this day and age. Either way, Espo, it's been so good having you on. It took you a little over, but listen, that's just what it is. Sometimes you're this good, you're gonna have to take a longer shift, Espo. That's why I'm always out exactly when my shift's over. They don't want me there any longer.
Yeah, I wouldn't shut the hell up. So you had to go over 30. It's just the way it works.
Me and Brendan sometimes we're in 40 minutes and hearing from our bosses to shut it off. People don't like to hear you that much speak. Either way, guys, you can find us on all social media. I'm sorry, that's different tagline for a different show. You can follow this show on all social media platforms, as well as you can find our podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks for making Locked On Phoenix Suns your first listen. Go check out Locked On NBA, and also go check out all the great things they do over at PHNX Sports. I've met a lot of those guys. My testimony, if I'm just reading an ad for them now, is I have met a lot of them, each of them nicer than the next, good group of people to work for. Espo is a fearless leader, and at times takes, him and I talk off air about other things, but at times takes, unfair criticism, and that's everyone in this business. But
sometimes it's fair criticism, to be fair. Too.
Well, that's the fair criticism, Espo, is when you're dancing on the table playing the saxophone. I know the viewers eat it up. I don't know.
There's not enough ones being thrown at me. That's my only criticism about it. Don't you have another tagline you got to get to, and then tell us how we can swipe left or right on a tax app to find somebody to help us out with our taxes?
No, I don't. Oh,
okay.
We're done. That's Espo, PHNX Sports. I'm Benjamin, Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On Phoenix Suns. Continue to check us out. Continue to watch. If you watch this whole video, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and we will talk to you guys with Brendan tomorrow. See you guys then.
Stop ducking me.